Okay.
All right, good morning. My name is Barry. I'm going to talk to you today about my hopeful career. About sophomore year at church camp, kind of had a calling on my life from God to be a youth pastor. Kind of ignored it for a long time. In the summer after my junior year at church camp, the theme, I guess you could say, of the week was called Direction. And I was like real confused about like where I want to go to college, and I knew that like God had called me to be a youth pastor, but I didn't really like act on it or anything. So with being Direction, it was kind of straightforward. I just ignored it the whole week, and every night there was an altar call to like call down for people who like needed help with direction in their life. And I waited till the last night, and like 10 minutes before it closed, he just like out of the blue was just like, I feel God tugging on my heart to like have an altar call for people who are called into youth ministry. So if that's you, then you need to come on down. And so I went down that night because it was so straightforward. And ever since then, I've just kind of been like applying myself and really changed a lot. Like, I mean, Madison's really the only one who knows how like immature and stuff I can be, but I've changed a lot like drastically since then. Trying to like be a better example for myself, and then so I can be a better example when I become a youth pastor and different things like that. Personal reasons, like I said, I'm a pretty immature person. Kind of allows me to like remain a kid a little bit being a youth pastor. And I know how big of an impact like youth pastors can have on kids' lives, just because like my youth pastor was a huge role model in my life for a really long time. Other than being a youth pastor, there's a couple other things I would consider like my career being, such as like if God doesn't put me in the right place to be like a full-time youth ministry and still be able to maintain like a financial like stability, then I'd consider being like a part-time counselor at a high school, or hopefully like a church counselor like within a church. Like if it's a big enough church, I could be like full-time youth pastor, and then like on top of that, like a Christian counselor inside the church. I mean, there's a ton of different ways in the helping or in the skilled helper model that would like benefit me in my career. That's what surprised me a lot. I figured like I don't know, I'd get like a lot more out of being a youth ministry major, but just being in this class is like there's a lot of strategies that I could totally use inside of a youth ministry, because just like kids are so intimidated by youth pastors. I know by experience to go talk to them just because they're afraid they're going to be. I mean, youth pastors all high and mighty, so they think they're so perfect, and you got to be able to relate to the kids and show empathy and stuff like that, just because they're going to be so scared to open up to you. Personal culture is a huge thing that stood out for me in this class. It was kind of early on in stage 1, but just as a youth pastor, realizing that every kid's his own person. Like not everyone grew up in a youth group. Not everyone's like tailored to Christianity all the time. I mean, from my church, there's a few atheists that come in sometimes, and just the caring that my youth pastor, like he knew they were atheists. He knew that they like didn't follow God at all, but I mean, he still showed them the same love and respect, and he didn't judge them like the same like that he would, and expect the same that he did from like the rest of us in the youth group. And it's just kind of like applying personal culture to within your youth group, realizing that not everyone's like sons and daughters of Christian people. Just basically understanding, being empathetic, and then with like if someone does have an issue coming to me, like having the probing and the prompts to be able to get them to open up more, because like I said earlier, it's so like difficult for kids to open up to the youth pastor or pastors or just people in the church in that nature, just because they feel like they'll be shamed. And that's pretty much all I have about. Or does anyone have any questions?
Do you see the other aspects of the skilled helper besides the personal culture?
Like the empathetic listening, the probing and the prompting. To me, like the telling their stories is like going to be the hardest part of it. Because other than that, like as far as being a youth pastor and like these kids, I mean, I feel like they'll listen to me for the most part, and applying and like planning it out and strategizing to like move away from the sin or move away from just difficult issues in their life. And with the school counselor and stuff like that, I don't know, I just feel like the skilled helper is real flexible with that issue. Like I'll be able to like adapt it if I become a counselor. Like I'll be able to switch back and forth and use it for both real easily, just because of how flexible it is, and it's not like specific to one nature,
Other questions or comments you guys want to make?
What's your biggest fear about being a youth pastor?
Biggest fear about youth pastor is honestly like just the way they view me and me being an example, I'm scared I'm gonna like do something to be like, oh, there's a youth pastor and he's doing that, so that's kind of, bad. So just like, I don't know, kids seeing me doing something I shouldn't, not that I'm gonna be out like partying and stuff like that, but just the little things and stuff. I'm just scared that like me being a bad example could lead to someone's eternal separation from God. It's very intimidating.
Do you feel like, because you said you're going to do, did you say you're going to either do counseling or youth pastoring, or are you going to try to do both?
I mean, youth pastors, like, it's hard to find a job out there for, like, churches and stuff like that. So
Make a living.
yeah, and make a living. So if, like, God doesn't provide me a working or a steady work that, like, pays enough to, like, stabilize for my family and stuff, then I'll have to get a part-time job as a counselor. Hopefully, like, my goal would be, like, inside the church, like Christian counseling, but, I mean, I could easily do it at a high school or middle school or something like that with it.
Thank you.